Jeff Bezos is the wealthiest man alive, with around $172 billion in his name. However, he is not the richest person ever lived. Let's find out who they are. Number 10. Mansa Musa, lived 1280 to 1337. Country, Mali. Wealth, richer than anyone could describe. Mansa Musa, the king of Timbuktu, is often referred to as the wealthiest person in history. Musa's West African kingdom was likely the largest producer of gold in the world, at a time when gold was in especially high demand. Number 9. Augustus Caesar, lived 63 BC to 14 AD. Country, Rome. Wealth, 4.6 trillion. Augustus at one point held personal wealth equivalent to 1/5 of his empire's economy. That fortune would be equivalent of about 4.6 trillion. Number 8. Emperor Shenzong, lived 1048 to 1085. Country, China. Wealth, ruled empire with 25% to 30% of global GDP. China's Song dynasty, 960 to 1279, was one of the most economically powerful empires of all time. Song dynasty's government was highly centralized, meaning the emperor held enormous control over the economy. Number 7. Akbar I, lived 1542 to 1605. Country, India. Wealth, ruled empire with 25% of global GDP. The greatest emperor of India's Mughal dynasty, Akbar, controlled an empire that accounted for about 1/4 of global economic output. Mughal dynasty was one of the most effective empires of all time at extracting wealth from the population. Number 6. Joseph Stalin, lived 1878 to 1953. Country, USSR. Wealth, complete control of a nation with 9.6 of global GDP. While that money didn't belong directly to Stalin, he had the ability to leverage Soviet economic might for any reason he chose. Number 5. Andrew Carnegie, lived 1835 to 1919. Country, United States. Wealth, 372 billion. Andrew Carnegie may be the richest American of all time. The Scottish immigrant sold his company, U.S. Steel, to J.P. Morgan for $480 million in 1901. That sum equates to about slightly over 2.1% of U.S. GDP at the time, giving Carnegie economic power equivalent to $372 billion now. Number 4. John D. Rockefeller, lived 1839 to 1937. Country, United States. Wealth, 341 billion. Rockefeller began investing in the petroleum industry in 1863, and by 1880, his Standard Oil Company controlled 90% of American oil production. Rockefeller was valued at about $1.5 billion based on a 1918 federal income tax return, and estimates of his overall fortune, around $341 billion in today's dollar. Number 3. Alan Rufus, aka Alan the Red, lived 1040 to 1093. Country, England. Wealth, 194 billion. The nephew of William the Conqueror, Rufus, joined his uncle in the Norman conquest. He died with £11,000, which is about 7% of England's GDP at the time. That would amount to 194 billion now. Number 2. Jeff Bezos, country, USA. Wealth, 172 billion. He was named the richest man in modern history after his net worth increased to 150 billion in July 2018. Now his fortune has increased to 172 billion. Number 1. Genghis Khan, lived 1162 to 1227. Country, Mongolian Empire. Wealth, lots and lots of land. Genghis Khan is undoubtedly one of the most successful military leaders of all time. As leader of the Mongol Empire, which at its height stretched from China to Europe, he controlled the largest contiguous empire in history.